Hello, my name is Gerald Davis. My wife Vicki and I were missionaries for 31 years in Asia. We're retired now, living back in our home state of Oklahoma. And I would like to share some stories and some ideas about what it means to be a missionary. First of all, I'd like to tell you a story about Bubba, who I met in seminary at New Orleans. Bubba and I went together on a mission trip to the Dominican Republic. And as it turned out, half of the team of about 20 students, half of them ended up working in the very wealthy part of the section of Santiago, I think is right, yeah. And we ended up working in the ultra poverty area. So our group were put in families of about 5 or 6 families, and I was staying alone in a family group that had 4 teenage sons and 1 grandson living with his grandparents. And our task was to clean up and paint a Catholic church that was being donated for basically Baptist missions effort. And so we began that task. Well, where I was staying, the home was a dirt floor. It was kind of a mud built shack, no air conditioning, of course, or fans even, electricity. And we had to go down the hill quite a ways to get water. And the first night I came home from working and I asked where I was going to sleep. And I soon realized that the young son, who was about 8 years old maybe, was the only one that could speak any English. And so he said, in here. And so it looked like a closet. It was about the size of a good size American closet. And I could see there was just like this old sweaty mattress in there. So I thought, okay, it could be worse. So I went in and laid down to go to sleep. And then the 4 teenage boys came and joined me in that room on that mattress. And we sort of laid side to side in sweat all night, them snoring away, and I was just like, when will this be over? So I got up the next morning, we had our little frugal breakfast and went off to work again. I ran into Bubba, asked him how he was doing, and he was like, these people are so poor. I can't believe how poor they are. I said, yes, Bubba, these are very poor people. Anyway, so we worked on that church for a few days, and then I came home one evening. I said, I wonder if in the morning I could take a bath. And I'd learned a few Spanish words, you know. I knew how to ask, donde es baño or whatever, and so I knew a few things. But I was talking to the young child, and he said, okay. So in the morning, after breakfast, he points into their little bathroom area, and he says, in here. So that was great. I looked over and they had this old bathtub and it was filled up with water. So I got my towel, my soap, I went in, I took my bath and got cleaned up and we went off to work at the church. When I came home that evening, here was the grandparents, the 4 sons, and the little boy standing all in a group, facing me, really angry. And when I came in the door, the grandma said, why did you take a bath in our drinking water? And I was like, I thought that's what you drew for me for my bath. That's where we store our drinking water, in the bathtub. So I was very embarrassed, and the next day I spent the whole day going down the hill bringing back water, while the grandmother spent all day scrubbing out the bathtub, re-scrubbing out the bathtub, re-scrubbing out the bathtub. What they had was a little tin can on the side that you put water in and dumped it over your head to bathe. So that was kind of embarrassing. We had a good time. At the end, when we got together to fly back, it turned out that all the people that went to the rich area got food poisoning at a swimming pool party that one of the rich folks had for them to celebrate them being there. So Bubba and I get on the plane. We're flying home, and Bubba reiterated, those people were the poorest people I've ever seen. He said, when I get home, I'm going to raise some money for them. I said, well, that's really nice, Bubba. He said, I'm going to get them some carpet and an air conditioner. And so I thought, should I say anything or not? I said, well, Bubba, what did you notice about their house? I said, what were the floors made of? Well, they were dirt. She just swept them out every morning. I'm going, kind of uneven floors? Yes. I said, well, carpet doesn't really work all that well on dirt. I said, yeah, that's right. I said, well, what else did you notice? When did they go to bed? Well, when the sun went down, they went to bed. I said, yeah, they blew out their candles and went to bed. And why was that? Well, it's because they didn't have any electricity, so an air conditioner wouldn't help that much either. He's like, you're right. And that was that. Well, Bubba gave his testimony at one of the churches, which he shared with us. And he got up. He had been a truck driver before he became a student and was going to become a pastor. And so he got up, he had his little interpreter, and he leaned forward and he said, "I was running down the road about 90 miles an hour. And everybody goes, and the guy translated it. He says, "Yeah, translate it." And so he does, and everybody goes, "Oh!" And then he says, "And a woman ran by me with a baby in her lap." And there was a big explosion. And I just fell on my knees and gave my life to Christ. And so, as you can imagine, there was some confusion about that testimony. So he walked back and sat down, and he asked the professor, the mission professor, how he did. He said, "Bubba, I can honestly say none of us will ever forget that testimony." So the story was, he was going very fast in his 18-wheeler, and a lady tried to pass him in a car, and she had her baby in her lap, and she cut in front of him and clipped him, and so they had this big accident, but everyone was okay, and so he got out. His father was a pastor, by the way, so he got out and laid down in the middle of the road and gave his life to Christ. So that was interesting. Anyway, so that was the trip to the Dominican Republic. I remember now to ask what water is for what.
And what do you think that the Filipinos heard?
It wasn't Filipinos, it was the
Dominican Republic people heard
Yeah, what did they hear from his story?
that he was like the $6 million man, because that was on TV at that time. He was racing down the road, but this woman caught up with him and passed him carrying her baby, and then he ran into a bank, which they thought was a regular bank, you know, and they crashed, and so there was some confusion there about what he meant to say, but truly an unforgettable testimony. So there you go. And he's now a pastor of a big church in Mississippi. Hello, Bubba, if you see this. Pardon me for telling your story.